So as a father of 5 children, I often find myself in the situation where 2 of my kids come to me and they tell me 2 different stories that both can't be true. And so the thing that I always come back to them with is, hey, the one thing that I know for sure is that one of you has to be lying, because it can't both be true that he hit you first and that she hit you first. Those things are contradictory. They can't both be true at the same time. So someone has to be lying. I found myself in this position with the whole political rhetoric of this 2024 election within the past couple months, specifically relating to the boogeyman and the chimera and the either savior of the universe or the death of the nation as a whole that is wrapped up in this thing called Project 2025. I hear one side say something about it, and then I hear the other side say something completely different, and the only thing that you can know for sure is sitting here going, well, they both can't be true, so someone has to be lying because those things are contradictory. So I decided, well, you know what? I'm just going to go and read the dang thing for myself and see what it actually says. So I went and read it, all 825 pages of it. So in this video, which is part 1 of a 3-part series, I want to distill a couple of facts about this document, about this book, and everything that it represents, where it came from, who wrote it, all that kind of stuff. Because this is all the things that are, you're saying X and you're saying Y, and they both can't be true. Someone has to be lying. So what are the facts of this document? Let's dig into it. Fact number 0. This is just a pet peeve thing for me, really, but the naming of stuff is kind of confusing because Project 2025 is the name of the website that they use and that the Heritage Foundation uses kind of to sum up everything in this. The actual book that I read, the actual everything that all this is based off of, is called Manifesto for Leadership 2025, right? And it is not available on Kindle or Amazon or anything. If you go and search for those, you will see a butt ton of books that are labeled Project 2025 that are not actual Project 2025. There is someone else's interpretation of it or rendition of it or lies about it or summary of it or whatever, but they are not the actual thing. The actual document is a 822-page book / PDF document that is called Manifesto for Leadership 2025. Moving on, fact number 1. This document was created by the Heritage Foundation. It was not written by Trump. It was written by a group of over 400 conservative voices that came together through different things that were all brought together by a group called the Heritage Foundation, and they are the ones who created this document. Fact number 2, this document originally came out in 1981. The Heritage Foundation in 1981 came together and decided, hey, we would like to make a game plan for Reagan coming in as a new conservative president. We want to kind of put together everything. It would be super cool to have a recommendation of kind of the best thinking of the conservative movement to give to the president so that on day 1, he can start doing some things instead of on day 1 starting to figure out what he should do. So then Mandate for Leadership was published in 1981 for Ronald Reagan. What happened after that was the guys at the Heritage Foundation were like, wow, this is a pretty helpful thing. And President Reagan was like, wow, this is a pretty helpful thing to have. And he implemented a bunch of the recommendations that they had from this document. And so they decided every 4 years, we're going to update this document. And they have. Every 4 years since then, they've made a new Mandate for Leadership. That is this plan for if a new conservative president is put into power, here's our recommendations for what we think you should do and what the conservative movement as a whole agrees upon and thinks we should be doing in the direction to move the country in a more conservative direction. So this document has existed for 40 some years. This is the 10th iteration of it. Point of that being, it is not a document specifically directed by or directed at Donald Trump. It's something that has been created for the conservative movement for over 40 years. Point number 3 is that although it was not directed to Donald Trump, and although it was not written by Donald Trump, and although it has not been endorsed by Donald Trump, in 2016, the Mandate for Leadership that came out and was given to Donald Trump when he became president was something that he took very seriously and that he implemented a lot of. He implemented 60-some% of the recommendations that were in the 2016 Mandate for Leadership. So, although the document has nothing specifically to do and was not written specifically for Donald Trump, it is also very true that the first time he became president, the document was given to him for the recommendations that were current in 2016, and he implemented a lot of them, and so there's reason to believe that if he becomes president again in November, this document will be given to him, and he will probably implement quite a few of the suggestions in it. The reason for that is because this document represents the overall consensus of most of the conservative movement. So it would not be surprising for a conservative president to make decisions in line with what is viewed as the proper decision to do by most of the conservative movement. However, again, it has not been confirmed by him or endorsed by him or anything, and actually he's stepped away from it for the most part, and some people will go so far as to say he has nothing to do with it, and he doesn't even know it exists, which is totally not true because he implemented 64% of the one that was given to him in 2016, okay? And the final point that I want to make is that this document is a very radical, in a sense, document because its purpose and its stated goal is to promote policy that will move the country the farthest amount possible towards conservative values and conservative goals in the time that this conservative president is president. The exact words of the document are, it is not a mandate to maintain the status quo, but just to do it a little more efficiently. Rather, it is a mandate to significantly advance conservative principles in practice and demonstrate to the American people that where liberal policies generally fail, conservative solutions succeed in making life better for us all. This is built on a fundamental belief, and I'm going to get to these in the second video. I'm going to talk all about the fundamental assumptions and beliefs of this document because I think those are the most important things about it and the most important points to argue about it. But it's built on this fundamental belief that what happens when a conservative president becomes president, if they do not take significant enough action, the underlying leftist leaningness of the state severely hinders the effects that would come from conservative principles. So this document, the belief in it is if you implement these plans and you clear the way for all these conservative principles to really take effect and really work and really do what we believe that they will do, then even if people don't like it in the beginning, they will see the outflows and the outcomes of it being so much better than what these other policies were. And the only times, again, the underlying assumption is that the only times that this fails is when we haven't cleared the way properly enough. And so we start to implement conservative solutions, but there isn't enough leeway or enough cleared for them to actually work fully, right? And you have to be careful with that because it's the same argument with people that are like, oh, well, socialism doesn't work because, it's just never been tried and it's never worked fully, right? So that in itself is not a appropriate argument to just be like, yeah, no, the only reason why conservative stuff hasn't worked is because it hasn't been fully implemented somewhere, right? So you can't give just a pass to that, but you need to understand that that's the fundamental understanding and view and why this document promotes very radical in some things super radical, some things not quite as radical, but just overall has a very aggressive stance towards the policy recommendations that it makes. So I hope that helps clear up some of the things that you may have heard that just put you in this position of both of these can't be true. This document can't be written by Trump and not be written by Trump. Which one was it? Make up your mind, people. It can't be Trump's plan, but also not Trump's plan that he hasn't endorsed at all, right? Some of them, the truth is a little bit more kind of in the middle. Well, no, Trump hasn't officially endorsed it, but he definitely knows what it is because he listened to it 4 years ago when it happened. It was longer than 4 years ago. I can't do math. 8 years ago. So it's disingenuous to say oh, he has no idea. And he's just kind of whatevs, right? So I hope that helps. Part 2 of this video coming up right here. What I want to talk about is less of the specific things that they say we should do. And instead I want to cover 5 underlying assumptions and underlying worldviews and underlying beliefs that the writers of this document hold, because those are the key things that you need to work out in your head of is this statement true? Yes or no? And then the outflow of that and the policies that we make from that, we might be able to disagree and we might change those and, fluctuate with those a little bit. But more importantly, there's these underlying assumptions and statements that these are the core of the things. These are what really need to be worked out in your mind and in your heart for you to make an informed decision about this thing, right? So that's right here. Go ahead and check this video out next.